and welcome to episode 14 of Carrying My Cross podcast. I'm Bill Tucker with a slightly scratchy voice. I have a cold that's been lingering around my chest and nose and throat area, but I gotta get something out. It's been 2 weeks since my interview with Dylan Bruce, and I didn't want another week to go by, so hopefully my voice lasts for the length of this episode because I'm gonna talk about something I didn't think I'd talk about. I didn't think this was going to be something I discussed. I didn't think I'd be able to distill my 2 months at Honey Lake Clinic into an hour-long episode, but I don't know. I feel like I kind of have to try. So this episode, just to put it out there, is going to feature some frank talk about mental health. It's going to feature some frank conversation about some uncomfortable topics. So trigger warning, if none of that sounds like, or any of that sounds like something you may want to avoid, then by all means don't listen to this episode. Check out the other 13. There's some good stuff in there. But for those who are willing to go on that road, let's go down the road here on episode 14 of Carrying My Cross podcast. So first, what is Honey Lake Clinic? Honey Lake Clinic is a residential mental health / addiction recovery center. It's essentially a rehab that is focused on mental health. They do take people who struggle with chemical addictions. They do take people who struggle with addictions of different types, but mainly it's for people who struggle with mental health, and it's a Christian facility. It is a Jesus first place. Everything has Jesus at the center of what they do, which is very rare and hard to find, at least in my situation. So how did I end up there? If you know me personally, you know that I've struggled with mental health quite a bit. If you listen to one of the last episodes of A Gamer Looks at 40, I tell the story of my week in a mental hospital, which was last year around this time-ish. I don't remember exactly the timing. It was around May. It was around May of last year when I was in that situation. I was in a mental hospital. And I got out of the mental hospital. I proceeded to do a series of PHP, and which is partial hospitalization, and then an IOP, which is individualized outpatient something. I forget the actual terminology. Essentially, once you're in the hospital, the next step when you get out of a mental hospital is to go into a PHP program. That's partial hospitalization. It's basically 20 hours a week. I did not work during that time. I was on short-term disability, and I would spend 9 to 1 o'clock in the afternoon, 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. in the hospital, but not staying there. And I would go home in the afternoon. And I did that for about 5 weeks. And then I was on an IOP for about 3 weeks. It was supposed to be 4, but I only did 3 because there was youth camp coming up and I wanted to do youth camp, et cetera, et cetera. IOP is a shorter length of time. There's no medication management. So while you're in PHP, they're still managing your meds. In IOP, they are no longer managing your meds. You have to go to an actual psychiatrist for that. So once I got out of that, it was basically mid-July, and I went back to work right before the busy season of back to school at my old job. Now, at my old job, I was working in education technology. Our back to school season starts around August-ish and goes until mid-September, or late September. And during that time, there's no PTO. We're working really long hours. It's back to school. It's when kids are going back to school, and the systems need to be up and running for that to happen. So I was cagey about going back to work right after this PHP, IOP, hospitalization period. I was out of work the entire time. And I was getting cagey about going back, but I did go back. It wasn't the worst back to school I've been a part of. That was 2020. That was literally the worst working year of my life. but it was still challenging, and I felt myself still better, but not whole, not where I needed to be. And as the months trickled on, I got to about mid-September where I started just feeling down again. I started feeling the old anger coming back, the old extreme feelings, the driving too fast, the desire to lash out angrily at things, desire to just act out in angry ways. The old suicidal thoughts were coming back. I was in a position where I didn't want to go to youth group because I knew I wasn't okay. Again, I was in a position where I was not okay mentally. I was not okay physically. I felt myself starting to drown in some of these negative thoughts and negative patterns, and really starting to get to a place where I wasn't feeling safe again. I was having suicidal ideations again. I was starting to make plans again. I was starting to do all the things that got me into hospitalization 4 months earlier. And it all came to a head when I had a psychiatrist appointment, and it was one of those mornings where everything was just going wrong. And again, it's the same formula, the little things stacking up to make a big thing. The kids were late getting out of school. Getting into school. It was an early morning. Getting into school. The kids were tough getting into school. They didn't want to get up. They didn't want to eat. In the van, I picked up a cup of coffee thinking it was empty, and it was old coffee, and it splattered all over me. And I couldn't contain this self-destructive desire, this self-destructive bent to just say screw it and do something drastic. So I make it to my psychiatrist appointment, and my psychiatrist had an intern with her, like a student that was there observing, and she goes, "Bill, do you mind if we have this student observe?" And I think at the first glance she knew I wasn't okay, and I'm like, "Yeah, that's fine." And this poor kid, he had no idea what he was walking into. Hopefully I'm a part of a case study. I don't know. Maybe I'm part of a paper someplace at some college. That might be nice. So I walk in, and I walk into the psychiatrist's office, and I tell her everything. I've known my psychiatrist for a number of years now. We have a good rapport. And I basically just tell her she can see I'm in a state. And so we only have a half an hour appointment. So I start talking. I mention some of the thoughts I've been having, some of the plans I've been making. And she says, "Listen, stay here, because I don't want you to get in your car. Can your wife come pick you up?" I was like, "Okay, sure. Stay here. I have another appointment. But I think you need to go to a long-term place. I think you need to go to a place for long-term residential treatment." Now, of course, my mind immediately goes to work. How am I going to swing that? I had just got back from long-term, from a hospitalization /PHP/IOP. I just did this. I want to avoid a rehab type of place. And so I'm curled up on the couch in another room. She's like, "Just stay here. I have another appointment. Once after this appointment, I have a break. We'll continue talking." So I'm there in the room by myself. My wife comes in. She's concerned, obviously. And Christine, who's my psychiatrist, she basically says, "Listen," after her other appointment, says, "Listen, I think you really need to consider checking into a long-term facility for at least a bunch of weeks, at least a couple of weeks, like at least a month." And again, the prospect of that was extremely scary for me. I'm going to be away from my family for a month. But she really encouraged me. My psychiatrist is like, you are not okay. I'm very concerned about you. I don't think you're safe. Will you be safe going home? You know, my wife, will you make sure he's safe? So my wife and I talked about it, and I said, let's explore it. Let's just look into it and see what this is all about. My psychiatrist gave me a number of different places in the Texas area that were maybe suitable for long-term care. But the one she kind of circled, underlined, and starred was Honey Lake Clinic, which is in Florida, which is like in the Tallahassee, like Panhandle part of Florida. And she basically said, like, if you can get into here, this is the place because it's Christian. It's a Christian-based place. It's Jesus first. Every place else I looked at was, we respect your spirituality, right? We respect all religions, but it was more of the same. And I really wanted Christ to be at the center of the healing process this time. If I was going to do this, let Jesus be the center. So I did the research, called up Honey Lake Clinic. I did the initial evaluation over the phone, and within a couple of days, they accepted me in, and I think my meeting with my psychiatrist was on a Thursday, and then by the following Thursday, I was on a plane headed to Florida for what I thought was be about a month. Now, Honey Lake Clinic, just give you like an overview of kind of what the place is. Honey Lake Clinic is, like what I said, it's a residential, you live there, you're there, place where it's a Christ-centered recovery center. They label it as a resort-style recovery center. A lot of these places do, like a rehab is kind of resort style. I say resort in the loosest sense of the word. It's not. It is a beautiful place. Like, it's beautiful. The grounds are gorgeous. The accommodations are nice. They have a variety of different therapies. They have a pool on site. They have a very serviceable gym. They have a spa where you can get spa treatments. They have bikes where you can ride around the center. They have fishing. You can do some kayaking. They even have equestrian stuff with horses. You can do horseback riding, which I actually did quite a bit of while I was there. There's lots of amenities, but when they say it's like a resort, a lot of people, I think, go there thinking it's going to be a resort. Like, you're going to get like facials and such. And it's really not. It's a resort in that it's a very nice place to recover, but there's a lot of work going on. And I'm going to talk about the Honey Lake experience. So if you're considering Honey Lake and you come across this, I'm going to tell you all about it as of fall-ish to 2025. And things could have changed by now. I don't know what the situation is there anymore, but I'm going to tell you the full experience so you kind of know what you're getting into. But yeah, Honey Lake Clinic is it's a great place. It's wonderful. But you're doing a lot of work. It is a place where they expect you to work at your recovery. They expect that. It's not a place to chill out and hang out. You get time for that later on in your process. So Honey Lake Clinic has a minimum stay of 30 days. It is extremely expensive. Luckily, I have very good out-of-pocket insurance. I'm not going to share how much I spent. It cost us a lot of money to go to Honey Lake Clinic out of pocket, but I didn't pay for the full amount that I would have if I was paying out of pocket. It's essentially $1,500 a day. Yes, you heard that correctly. So if you're there for 30 days, you do the math, it's an easy $40,000 bill. I did not pay anywhere near that amount, but I paid a sizable chunk to go there. It's very expensive, but when you go there, you kind of realize why. There's the way Honey Lake works is when you go there, I'll kind of tell my experience going there. Let me just do my experience, and I'll just kind of talk about the first week and then going through it. So I get on my plane, I get on my flight, I get picked up at the airport by somebody from Honey Lake, this one security team. It's about a 45-minute drive from Tallahassee Airport. to this middle of the country, middle of the woods retreat type area. You go in, you have to surrender all your stuff. So they check your bags for any contraband, for anything that's not allowed. These are things like outside food, anything could be considered dangerous. I had to get special shampoos and soaps and deodorant that didn't have certain chemicals in it, like alcohol and things like that. I don't know. It's definitely a culture shock going and getting your stuff pulled through. You get your keys taken away and your wallet taken away because you don't really need any of that while you're there. And then you get the tour of the facility, which is fine. It's all kind of happens in a rush. And then you get your lodgings. Now, when you're at Honey Lake Clinic, there are 2 levels of care. And there are 4 levels of service. And you're going to hear about the levels a lot if you go to Honey Lake Clinic. Now, this is similar to a lot of rehab places that from what I understand. So this may be a common thing. But at Honey Lake, you have 2 levels of care. And then you have your service levels. The levels of care are, like I said before, PHP and IOP. And it's the same levels of care at Honey Lake. That is decided by your care team. You're assigned when you get to Honey Lake, you're assigned a therapist, you're assigned a psychiatrist, you're assigned a pastor, so you have pastoral care, and you're also assigned one other thing, I can't remember off the top of my head, but you're assigned a care team to you, and you meet with your therapist 3 days a week, and you meet with your psychiatrist 2 days a week, and you meet with your pastoral care once a week. And of course, you can always pop into your pastor and do pastoral care. And the amazing thing about Honey Lake is when you're in PHP, you are basically in the nicest hospital you've ever been in your life. It's the most cozy hospital ever. You do share a room with another patient. I had 3 roommates over my time there. I was initially supposed to be there for 30 days. I got extended to 50. So I was there for almost 2 months because my care needs, the minute I got there and they did my evaluation, let me back up again. Sorry. So the PHP is basically as if you are in a hospital. That's basically you're hospitalized. You are in what's called the EQ, which is it's like a dorm that's right by where the horses are hanging out. And in the EQ, you have to get your that's where you get your meds. That's where the nurse's station is. That's where that's where you do all of your every day. You get your vitals taken. It's a hospital. They check on you every hour. It's hour checks. I think when you're actually, depending on your level of care, some people get less checks. Unlike a hospital situation where the checks are very obvious, they open the door, look in on you, make sure you're okay. They're very subtle about it. All the rooms have cameras, right? So they can just look in on you to make sure you're there. If you're kind of wandering about the facility, someone has to have an eye on you at least once an hour. And that I found out the hard way where all of a sudden a golf cart rolls up and it's like, oh, there you are, Bill. We haven't seen you for an hour and a half. And I'm like, I was just kind of walking around and I'm like, I didn't realize you check on me. And like, yeah, we got to make sure we at least see you at least once an hour. It's like, oh, okay. It's a reminder you're at a hospital. So that's PHP. That's your level of care. After a certain period of time, you ideally, if your care team thinks you're ready for it, usually if your insurance, it's when your insurance says so, you get stepped down to IOP, which is you're no longer hospitalized. But since you're still on the campus, you're no longer able to be in the EQ. You now go to what's called the cottages. And the cottages are nicer accommodations. They're more private. Instead of being in the big dorm with all the other patients, you are in a cottage with a roommate and 2 other people. So the cottages sleep 4 people, 2 in one bedroom suite and the other 2 in the other bedroom suite. and it's just nicer accommodations. There's like a little living area with a little TV. All the rooms have TVs, but they're nicer accommodations. But the problem with IOP is you get stepped down in care. So instead of 3 therapy appointments, you get 2 a week, and instead of 2 psychiatry, you get 1. So your care gets stepped down. And again, the decision for that to happen is if you are paying with insurance, your insurance dictates when that happens. Your insurance says, nope, you're good. You don't need hospitalization anymore. You get stepped down to IOP. It's there, just so you know, and I don't know, this may have changed. I know there were some patients actually fighting for this to change. When you step down to when you step down to IOP, since you are no longer in the hospital, you have to pay an additional fee. It's like, I forget what it is. It's like $20 a day for like a cleaning fee, which you have to pay outside of your insurance. Insurance doesn't cover that because they need to cover your housing. Essentially, you're now no longer a patient at the hospital. You're now in an IOP program, but since you can't go home, you're being housed there outside of the hospital area. You now are in the hospital. You're now in IOP or in the cottages. You have to pay like a housing fee. They don't tell you that in the initial meetings, so good to know there. I do know there were some patients who were fighting against that. They may have removed that by now. I don't know, but that was the case for me. That's the levels. Those are the care levels, the medical levels. The other levels you hear about are the levels of service. And there's 4 levels, level 1, 2, 3, and 4. When you first get to Honey Lake Clinic, you're at a level 1 service level. Within 3 days, you get up to level 2. So there's nothing you can do. That's just automatic. And the levels dictate how many amenities you can get. So with every level, you get more spa treatments. You can do more of the gym classes. They offer like classes like boxing and other different types of classes. You can do more. You get different levels of from the barber, from the stylist, from getting. So if you want a facial, if you want a fancy haircut, if you want to get want to get your nails done, those come with different levels. And the way you climb those levels is by attending classes and doing your hours a week. So as you increase if you go to all the classes you're scheduled for and maybe miss 1 or 2, which includes, and go to all of your therapy appointments and go to all your psychiatry appointments and your pastoral care, if you basically go to all your appointments and follow the schedule, you increase your level. And the one thing they do is they make you actually apply to increase your level. They don't do it automatically after the first one. It's just be aware that it's important to do that quickly, because they want you to be empowered to say, yes, I've progressed to the second level. Yes, I've progressed to the third level. There's 4 total levels. When you get to level 4, you're able to take a boat out onto the lake. You have 3 spa treatments a week. I think you get 1 or 2 gym treatments, gym classes a week. You just get all the amenities. Everything kind of opens up to you. You can also start doing equestrian. So you can start doing horse rides. Once you reach certain levels, once you're like a level 3, you can take the horse out kind of sort of solo. And it's a long, like hour-long ride around this extended property, which is really pretty and great. That's the main reason for me to get to the other levels. So the level, so when you hear about levels, there are 2 different things. And also the requirements for your care decrease when you hit IOP. So in order to maintain your level, if your PHP there's more hours for you to do because you're in the hospital. Once you're IOP, you're technically more independent and your requirements are less to maintain your level. So a big, long discussion about levels because I don't know. Again, someone may be considering Honey Lake Clinic. When you go there, it's a hard thing to explain. And I explained it so many times to new patients. They'd be coming in like, what's with the level system? I have a seat. I got you. There are care levels, there are service levels, and I'd have to explain it many, many times just because it's a hard thing to wrap your head around. You are very busy at Honey Lake Clinic. When you first go there, your first week or my first week was really tough because you are going from 8:30 a.m. to 5 o'clock in the evening, and then it's dinner time, and there's usually an activity or something. But by the time like 7 o'clock rolls around, you're tired, you're shot, and especially if you're coming down from a mental health episode or a mental health situation, it was really, for me, it was refreshing. I liked having the structure. I liked having the schedule of classes to go to. When I talk about the classes, there is everything from wellness classes. They have a lot of, it's all group classes. So the classes are everything from learning about neurobiology, how your brain works, how we create neural pathways, to wellness classes, to therapeutic classes. They are by and large very good. They are very good. And the people who teach these classes genuinely care. And again, everything is Christ-centered. The beginning of the day is breakfast, of course. After breakfast is a community half hour where all the patients there, the most that were there while I was there was, I think, 47 or 48 people were there. They might have increased this since then. But not a ton. There was a great mix of people from every age and there are people, young people in their early 20s. There were elderly people in their 60s and 70s. There were a wide variety of people who were going to Honey Lake Clinic. The people there were the best part about it. The community of people there working on their relationship with God, working on their stuff, working on their issues. That was the best part of it, was the community. It was really beautiful. I still try to keep in touch with some people at Honey Lake. I'm terrible at keeping in touch with anybody. So this is just a reminder for me to just reach out to people and just say, hey, how you doing? But the people were by far the best part of the experience. Yeah, so that was the rhythms of Honey Lake. I had great days. I had miserable days. I had breakdowns. I had recoveries from those breakdowns. I had moments where I would curl up on a beanbag chair in the rec room and just sit there. And I would sit there for hours and just stare off into space because I could not handle anything. I had moments where I was taking a walk and I just felt my whole body just shut down to the point where I had to be helped back to the cottage. I was in the cottages at that point, and I just started screaming. Like I just couldn't contain all the chaos in my head. Because when you're doing these classes, you're investigating yourself all day. You are spending all day inside your head learning about why your brain does the things it does. And everything comes up. Everything rises to the surface. And I don't know if someone must have heard me and called me in. Evidently, there was like 4 golf carts surrounding my cottage. One of the staff came in and talked to me and prayed with me and calmed me down. And they almost put me back in the hospital for a couple of days, but I was able to, I guess, talk my way out of it. I had days where I felt great. I felt like myself. I felt social again. I felt like I could talk to people. And there were some days where I just couldn't deal with it. I did not have what I would call a mountaintop moment when I was at Honey Lake Clinic. I did not have the epiphany moment. A lot of people do. A lot of people have this come to Jesus moment where everything changes. I did not have that. And when I expressed that on when I was doing my discharge, I expressed a little bit of frustration about that. The person who was doing my discharge was like, look, that's actually better, because life is not a series of mountaintop moments. Life is a struggle, and it's okay that you didn't come out of here without that big aha moment. But yeah, and they do prepare you for leaving as well, because They do spend a lot of time preparing you for life on the outside. A couple other things. Food. The food there was actually really good. They have a full salad bar. The food it's all Mediterranean, so lots of high protein, low carb. Honestly, I thought the food was passable to great. There were some days where I was like, this is awesome. The weirdest thing in Honey Lake Clinic for me was the snack line. The snack line is weird, and I really hope they've solved this problem because it's weird. You are given snacks 3 days a week, and 3 days a week, it's Monday, Wednesday, Friday, I think. It's either 2 or 3 days a week. I forget what it was. But at lunchtime, at some point during lunch, they'd roll up with the snack cart, and everybody gets in this long queue, and you get to pick 3 snacks from the snack cart. And you can take those snacks. You're not supposed to take them back to your room, which I don't know what you're supposed to do with them. Like carry them around. I don't really know what you're supposed to do with them. But those are like your extra snacks for evenings or whenever you're feeling snacky. And it was such a big deal for people to get in the snack line. It was wild. I actually bartered, since I don't drink coffee. I found a buddy of mine who was like, hey, Bill, you don't drink coffee? I was like, no, I don't, because there's no caffeine at Honey Lake Clinic except for 1 cup of coffee in the morning, and you're only allowed 1. So again, everything is centered around wellness and stimulants and getting off of stimulants. And so what people will do, and what I did was I would get a cup of coffee and give it to my buddy, and then he would stand in line and give me his snacks because he wasn't a big snacker. And I just enjoyed hoarding the snacks. It was fun for me to have like a collection of potato chips, but it was largely healthy stuff like granolas and yogurt covered pretzels. Like, again, nothing that was terribly for you. Baked potato chips and things like that. He knew what I liked, so he would do this barter system. The snack line was weird. It was always kind of like, oh, here we go. I got to stand in this line. I just want to eat my lunch and not stand in the line. They provide smoothies every day. You can sign for a smoothie, which is always nice. Smoothies were always a fun treat. On Thursday afternoons, they would do a celebration for everyone who was leaving that following week. So they would do, if you wanted to, you could go up and say a few words about your time at Honey Lake, and then they would have a prayer circle. And then they would do like a nice little celebration for people who were leaving. That was always fun because you got ice cream that evening, which was always nice. Everyone, again, goes for the ice cream. I'm not the type of person that's going to stand in line for stuff. So a lot of times I would just be like, I'd rather just sit by the fire. They would sometimes have a fire pit outside and have like a fire. Like, I'd rather just sit by the fire and hang out. I can't stand in line for this chaos. But it was a really an amazing experience. It was a very healing experience. I loved my pastor. My pastor was incredible. He was direct. He was honest. He was on fire for God in the way I wish I could be. I wish I had his fire, and I feel glimpses of it. I feel tinges of it. And every time I think of Pastor Perry, I think, man, I got to get back in my word, and I got to start living the word. He said to me, and I think I mentioned this in the interview with Dylan. He said to me, one of the first things he asked me was, Bill, if you go to heaven, if you're at the pearly gates and someone asks you, why do you belong here? Do you belong in heaven? What would you say? And my answer was very theologically correct, was I don't belong here. It's only because of the blood of Jesus do I even get a chance to approach these gates. Do I even get a chance to talk to God? It's nothing that I did that got me here. It's all about Jesus and what he did. And he looked at me, he's like, good answer. Most people don't answer that question properly. That's the right answer. And when he asked me why I was there, and I was explaining my story about the suicidal ideations and the plan making and everything else, he looked at me and said, Bill, you got to stop reading your Bible. And I was like, what? A pastor just told me to stop reading my Bible? What? I was shocked. And he said, man, you just got to start living it. And that hit me like a ton of bricks. I was like, whoa, man. Yeah, he's right. Now, I can't live the Bible unless I read the Bible. I can't live it unless I study it. But boy, oh boy, that phrase there has haunted me. And I am in a season where things have been rough emotionally again. I'm not anywhere near as bad as I was a year ago at this time. I know that, and I praise God for that. But things have been rough emotionally for me. I've started a new job. So I have lots of insecurities about the work I'm doing or the lack of work. Am I doing enough? Am I progressing enough? Am I learning enough? Like all that stuff is constantly flowing through my head. I have insecurities and fears, and it's all been challenging. And when I look back at the last month of living, what's been missing? I haven't been in my word. I haven't been reading the Bible. I haven't been praying. Hey, surprise, surprise. Why do I think that these things, I am not ruminating on the things that are good and holy and true. I'm focusing on the wrong things again. And so this is just a reminder to me as I'm talking to this microphone and blabbing for the last, what are we at now? 38 minutes that why? Of course, I'm struggling. I'm not doing the things I was taught to do. Also, while I was at Honey Lake Clinic, I did this thing called TMS. It's transmagnetic stimulation. Maybe I don't want to say experimental, but it's a very new treatment where scientists have identified the parts of the brain that trigger depression and anxiety. And by stimulating these very specific sections of your brain with electrical pulses, they can actually reduce the symptoms of anxiety and depression. It's basically 30 straight days. You have to do it every day for 30 days. The system I was on there, which is different than the one I'm doing now, it was 20 minutes of pulses on one side of my brain and another 25 on the other side. So it was like a 45-minute session. And I wish I could say it was pleasurable. I wish I could say it was fun. The first few days, those things hurt. When they're trying to map your brain, they put this like headband, this like dome on your head, not a metal dome, but like this paper, like a beanie. That's like a beanie over your head with all these little lines in it. It's really cool. And they try to find the specific part of your brain that will respond to this stimulus. And what they have you do is keep your hand at a very neutral level. I just put your hand out in front of you and let it just like droop. No motion. And what they do is they send a test pulse to your hand. And what happens is your finger twitches, but you don't feel it. And you can't even feel your finger twitching. But then they look at your finger and someone's looking at it and they say, oh, yep, there you go. Move it 2.8 degrees this way. Try it again. And it's the wildest thing. You see your finger twitching, but you cannot feel your muscle actually doing the thing. It's all the electrical impulse actually hitting your finger. It's crazy. But the first time you do it, the TMS, it is rather painful. Imagine a tension headache in your head. So imagine Woody Woodpecker going, da, 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 da. Wait 10 seconds. Da, 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 da. Wait 10 seconds for 20 solid minutes, and you can't move your head. Your head is like immobile. And you just feel this tightening in your brain. You feel your brain actually kind of tighten. So it feels like a tension headache for 20 straight minutes. The other side, that's really for anxiety. I think it's the anxiety and depression side. That one's not as bad. It's a steady pulse once a second for I think 25 minutes. That doesn't hurt as much or ache as much. The good news is after 3 days, I got used to it. So it would be painful for the first 2 pulses, and then it'd be fine. And then it wouldn't hurt anymore. Your brain gets used to it, which is why you have to do it for the full 30 days. As much as I would love to say it was magical and changed my life, there were so many therapeutic things happening at once. I don't know if I can associate TMS to my benefit. However, they say that you really don't feel the benefits until you're like 27th or 28th treatment out of 30. And I don't know if this was groupthink or just psychosomatic, but I did feel better. I felt lighter. I felt a little more in control around that time frame. And now what I do is I do boosters. I do boosters one every like 6 weeks. And I can honestly tell if I haven't done a booster. I had a long break between boosters because they're very expensive. They're not covered by insurance. It's like $300 a pop for a booster. And the actual treatment for TMS is not covered by insurance. We did not get reimbursed for it. So that was a big chunk of change. I'm not going to get into how much it was, but it's very expensive. But I was there, they offered it, and I said, you know what? If I'm here, let's try it. And I got to say, I can tell if I haven't had my TMS because when I do my booster, I do feel better. I do walk out of there feeling, okay, I feel more centered. I don't know what it is. Again, maybe it's psychosomatic. Maybe it's just my brain tricking itself, but I genuinely feel better when I get my booster. And now I'm getting them every 6 weeks because it's expensive and it's a lot of money laid out for that, but I do genuinely feel better after I have that. What else with Honey Lake Clinic? I mentioned briefly that they'll have evening programming. On Mondays, they have a worship night with this guy who comes in, Warren. He's amazing. He's so good. Don't skip out on worship nights. They're so fun. He is incredibly good. On Wednesdays, they usually have a speaker come in just to do like a quick Bible study. And sometimes they just talk about their lives, which is pretty great. On the Fridays, usually like a downtime where it's really a lot of free time after classes. Weekends, they always have a experience, as they call it. Someone comes in for the weekend and does like an intensive. So yeah, even weekends, you're hitting classes. It's every single day. And even on the weekends, they're hitting it. And the weekend excursions, some of them were experiences. Some of them were phenomenal. The one that the lead pastor does was great. It actually inspired the Screw Tape Letters series that I do on this show that I do want to get back to. I want to continue that series. He had us write a Screw Tape letter, and I actually performed that initial one I did in front of the group during the talent show. We had a talent show one night, and everyone was doing silly songs. I performed that in front of people. So that was all basically written at Honey Lake Clinic, and it was brought over here to the podcast. And I actually wanted to do a show that was just that, but I knew I didn't really have it in me to like write something like that all the time. So do look forward to another one coming up. I will continue that series in future episodes. But anyway, so it's some of the experiences not for me. There was one person in particular when I was first got there. He really pissed me off. Did not like him. I get what he was trying to do, but you know, your mileage is going to vary on the excursion, on the experiences. I had one situation. They also do, I keep saying excursions. They often do, I think it was like once every 2 or 3 weeks, they would do an offsite. You have to be level 3 or 4. I think you have to be level 4 on the services, and you had to be an IOP because they literally take you to lunch off campus. The reason you have to be on IOP and not PHP is because they can't take you out of the hospital. There's no nurses going with you. You're going with a member of the staff. And they took us to like this buffet that had like this country style buffet, and they took us bowling. I had one though negative experience, which reminded me that, hey, I'm not here to relax. I'm a mentally ill person here. We were supposed to go to the movies. It was an excursion. I was level 4, IOP, the whole thing in the cottages. Put my name down. We're going to go to the movies. We're going to see a Christian movie at some theater somewhere, have lunch, go to the movies. I'm excited because if you know me personally, you know I love movies, and going to the movies is something I do at home. I love the movie experience. I go to the theater quite often. I love movies. I love going to the movies, and I was so excited for this excursion. I'm like, all I want is a Diet Coke and I want a Diet Coke, some popcorn, sit in a movie theater for a couple of hours. I don't care what the movie it is. It could be terrible. I don't care. I just wanted to feel normal for an afternoon. So we get to the day. It's a beautiful Florida day. It's beautiful. It's October. It's like fall's coming in. It was a gorgeous day. And everybody else who I was going to who I was going to go with, who had signed up, they all decided to not go last minute. So I'm waiting by the security office, getting ready to get my things, all excited to go to the movies. And I hear the news, nobody else wants to go. Would you just want to go yourself? And I was crestfallen because I felt really betrayed that everybody made this decision not to go. And A, didn't include me, didn't ask me. And B, what am I going to do? I'm going to go by myself to the movies with a random staff member, like, and have lunch with a random staff member who's also female, which is weird. I'm not going to do this by myself. So I said, forget it. And I went up to them and I'm like, what's going on? And they all were like, oh, it's such a beautiful day. We don't want to spend it inside a movie theater. You know, we don't really care about the movie anyway. We just kind of wanted lunch. And I was just brokenhearted. I was so upset. I almost spiraled until my roommate caught me and was like, hey man, what's going on? And I explained we took a long walk around the lake. And I'm like, man, I just want to feel normal. I was really upset. I was like, sad panda, time for me to go sulk in my room for the next 5 hours because I just wasn't feeling it. The next excursion was the bowling excursion. People actually went. It was fine. It was fun. We got off campus and it was good. It was just one of those situations where it reminded me that we're here for a reason. You know, me not going to the movies should not have triggered that response, but it did. And again, it was a reminder that of the growth that I need to do. Yeah. And they explained, they were all very nice, and I apologized for coming at them harshly, and they apologized for not including me, and it was fine. Relationships repaired, but it was definitely a shock to the system for sure. Getting out was, like I said, when I was done with my 50 days, when I did my initial assessment, when you first go to Honey Lake Clinic, you spend your first day getting assessed. And I didn't mention that at the beginning, but you spend your first day, you do your psychiatric evaluation, you do your medical evaluation, you do all these evaluations. You're telling your story 5 times to 5 different people. And the reason is that they combine and they talk about it. And I'm sure the idea is that the more you talk about your story, the more things come up. And after hearing about my suicidal stuff, they immediately upped me from 30 to 45 days. And that was fine. I told my wife, we agreed ahead of time, we're here for the duration. Like, we are here. If it takes 60 days, 90 days, whatever it takes to get better, that's what it's going to take to get better. It doesn't matter. So they initially upped me to 45 days. They wanted me, after I had a breakdown, they wanted me to stay an additional 10 to make it 55. That would have taken me through Thanksgiving of last year. I would have missed Thanksgiving at home. The only reason I didn't stay the additional 5 and I ended it at 50 was my insurance was guaranteed to cover me for 50 days. If I had stayed 55, there was a chance the insurance would have rejected that and I would have been on the hook for the aforementioned $1,500 a day, which I did not have any money for. Because, oh yeah, I forgot this. While I was at Honey Lake Clinic on October 30th, actually it might have been Halloween, actually, on October 30th or 31st, I forget which one, I got let go from my job. I was laid off from my job, and Even though I was on FMLA, which technically you're not supposed to get fired from if you're on FMLA on medical leave, they basically eliminated my position, so FMLA couldn't cover it. I got fired. And you know what? It was for the best. Honestly, it was for the best. I got laid off in the best possible place, surrounded by support, surrounded by people who cared, who prayed with me, and who helped me through my emotions and helped me just kind of process it properly. I think if I were home and got laid off, I think it would have been an entirely different reaction. I think my reaction would have landed me in a hospital again. Like I definitely think that would have happened. It would have been another grippy sock vacation. So I'm very grateful I got laid off while at the recovery center, because again, it would have been a much different situation if I wasn't there. And so that was the final big event, I think, of while I was there. Again, very up and down experience. So when I left, I left at 50 days. So I was there 50 days. And as I was leaving, I was thinking, wow, I felt more centered. I felt more prepared. My flights home were horrifying because it was Thanksgiving weekend and I was delayed, I think, a total of 6 hours getting home. But you know what? I was prayerful. I was talking to God. I was making Spotify mixes on my phone and I got through it. And again, it was one of those situations where old me could have had a really serious problem. I've had problems in airports where delays during stressful times would trigger me to have panic attacks and let my mind start spiraling and my legs start shaking and just having these. I've had situations where I've had people who are sitting next to me on planes have to help me like get to my next gate because there was problems with the plane. Like I've had situations and breakdowns in airports. I've been that crazy person that people start filming and putting on TikTok. I've been there. And I don't want to go back to that. So coming home, it was a boilerplate, ready for breakdown situation, and I was able to get through it with no issue. I was able to get through it fine, and that was the first. And then I went home. Started looking for a job, and the rest is kind of sort of history. At Honey Lake Clinic is when I had the idea to do this show. I had the idea to really move forward and say, yes, I'm going to podcast. I'm going to do a Christian show. I'm going to step down Gamer Looks at 40 and step up this one. I've had the idea for a while, but it was the place where I'm like, no, I need to do something for the kingdom. So the reason you're listening to this is a lot of Honey Lake Clinic, a lot of time spent in the Word, just thinking about what this could be. And hopefully this is something that's honoring God and something that he hears and is pleasing to him. And that's really the end result. If it's pleasing to him, then it's pleasing to the kingdom, and it's a small brick in a very large wall, maybe. Who knows? I don't know what this is, but I do know that Honey Lake Clinic was very crucial in getting this off the ground. So grateful for that as well. That's the story of me at the mental health center. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope you learned a thing or two. If you're considering going to Honey Lake Clinic and you stumbled across this podcast, I would recommend it. Don't expect an easygoing resort. Don't expect to laze around the pool all day. You are putting in work, but it's work worth doing because your mental health is extremely important. You are extremely important. You're vital to God, and it's exhausting that first week. Trust me, everyone will be there to support you. The support you get is unparalleled. The care you get is incredible. Are they perfect? No. Are there issues? Sure. Is there drama? Occasionally. And I didn't get into the drama situations that we experienced there because you know what? It's not worth it. It's a small piece of a much larger puzzle. And I don't want to get involved in drama, and I don't want spill other people's beans. That's not what I'm here for. And if you've listened to this show for any length of time, you know that's not what I'm about. So that ain't happening. So that does it for this edition I almost said a gamer looks at 40. That does it for this edition of Carrying My Cross podcast. If you want to connect with the show, I am open on TikTok and Instagram. Please find me there. Give me a follow. Check out some of the shorts I do. Hopefully they are a blessing to you and others. I do clips from this show and other type of things sometimes when I'm in the zone, trying to post as much as I can. Haven't posted in about a week or so, but I try to keep a presence on there, on those two platforms. You can also email me at carryingmycrosspod@gmail.com. I'd love to hear from you. Prayer requests, comments on the show, just general feedback is always greatly appreciated. And until next time, take care of your brain. God designed your brain in a very specific, special way that, if cared for, can honor the kingdom and honor Him. And if you're a neurodivergent like me, God made you for a reason, and He can use your story, your brain, your issues, your problems to better His kingdom. So just stay prayerful, stay in the Word, and stay connected to a God that loves you so much that He sent His only Son to die for you on that cross 2,000 years ago. Thanks again for listening to Carrying My Cross, and I will chat with you all next week. Bye, everybody.